Let's go to America now on this Tuesday morning. Former President Donald Trump one step closer to a rematch with Joe Biden as he scores a win in the Iowa caucus yesterday.
And I really think this is time now for everybody, our country, to come together. We want to come together, whether it's Republican or Democrat or liberal or conservative. It would be so nice if we could come together and straighten out the world.
Well, the Florida governor, Ron DeSantis, and the former South Carolina governor, Nikki Haley, have finished a distant second and third, whilst the outsider candidate, Vivek Ramaswamy, has dropped out, immediately endorsing Trump's campaign.
Right. Well, former advisor to Clinton in the Bush administration, Steve Gill, friend of the show. Steve, we're delighted to see you this morning. Nothing happened there that you wouldn't have predicted?
I think the thing that was surprising was the just overwhelming win that Trump got. He broke records, getting over 50% of the caucus vote. That was a record. He won by the largest margin, over 30 points, a record, and carried all 99 counties in Iowa. So it was a massive beatdown that Donald Trump was able to accomplish.
He does amaze me. There's lots of things I don't admire about him, and there's a few things I do admire about him, which is he talks straight. He says it as he is. He cuts through a lot of political speak, and the electorate seem to identify with that.
Yeah, and I think, Eamon, like you, a lot of us have problems with some of his personality quirks and some of the things that he will say. But at the same time, I think it is his policies. And in his acceptance of this victory speech, he really moved forward, talking about what he wants to fix, secure the border, get the energy independence of America back online, get our cities safe again. And I think if he'll stay on that track of what he's going to do and remind people of what he did, I think his policies will trump personality.
Oh, clever use of the word there. Just explain to us here in the UK why Iowa is important. He's still got a way to go to get the Republican nomination. Is Iowa a kind of bellwether for the way this is going to go, or do you think Nikki Haley and Ron DeSantis might do better elsewhere?
The thing about Iowa is that just 15, 20 years ago, it was a battleground state in the general election in November. It was always tight. Democrats, were carrying U.S. Senate races and House races. It has moved as a solidly red or Republican state now. And again, I think with Trump carrying all 99 counties in the Republican primary is a testament to that. It is not really reflective of kind of the broader race, though. It's about a 95% white state demographically. Only about 110,000 people voted in this caucus process, so it's not like you're seeing big numbers turn out. The same thing is going to be true in New Hampshire. If you have a couple of 100,000 people vote in their primary, it's another very white demographic state. So it's not reflective of the broader general election campaign, but they're historically first. They do accomplish the purpose of winnowing the field down. And the Democrats right now, all they can do is iterate over and over again. Trump is bad. Trump is evil. He'll destroy democracy. And that's clearly not working in Iowa. It won't work in New Hampshire. And I don't think it's going to work as we move forward either. They're going to have to come up with a better way to stop Trump than just repeat the ad nauseum reiteration of he's evil, he's bad, when people just don't always see that.
He may be destroying democracy, Steve, but he may preserve the world. We're talking here on the show today about our defense secretary, and he's saying the world is on a perilous path to war within 5 years, and he quotes conflicts with North Korea, with China, with Russia, with Iran, all looking likely in that time. And I just, you give me your take on this. Trump seems to be more a guy that will say, look, let's put our differences behind us. Let's strike a deal on this. War's in neither of our interests.
Well, and I think with Trump, I think our enemies, our adversaries fear him. They know he will not just sit back and take the attacks on commercial vessels and on military vessels and military installations. I think when you see the world stage, when you portray weakness, our enemies, our adversaries, whether it's the UK, whether it's Western Europe, whether it's the United States, our adversaries will take advantage of that. And I think your foreign minister is exactly right. What we're seeing in Iran in just the last 24 hours is they have moved from proxy attacks to direct attacks. And I think, again, the lack of response from the Biden administration, even though the UK and the US did respond in part to the Houthis, there wasn't a strong response. and Iran's been getting a free pass. We've allowed them to export $50-60 billion of oil, despite sanctions that were supposed to limit them to a few $1 billion. They have used that money to fund terrorism all over the world, and we are headed down a perilous path if we don't turn around and do something more aggressive and do it soon.
The boss of the MI6 here has identified Trump as being a threat to our national security, saying that his rhetoric around withdrawing cash from NATO and the nuclear umbrella puts us vulnerable, of course, with the front of war in Europe with Russia, and obviously wants to be quite pally with Putin, which is hugely unpalatable to us here in Europe. Does it necessarily mean that because he is this character that is, as you say, feared? Is that accurate, do you think, given all of that?
I think that Donald Trump believes that a lot of international relations is personal. Even though you don't have to go along with whatever President Xi in China wants, you don't have to go along with Kim Jong-un in North Korea, you don't have to necessarily agree with everything that President Putin in Russia is doing. But when you're having conversations and when they respect you and know that you will say what you mean and mean what you say, both behind closed doors and in those usually sort of patronizing press conferences after world leaders meet, I think they know that Donald Trump will step up and do what's best for America. I think that for a long time he has said that the U.S. is overfunding NATO, and we look at what's going on in Ukraine and Russia right now. It's great that Western Europe is ponying up a lot of money for that conflict, but the U.S. is still doing the lion's share, and I think certainly Western Europe, Germany, France, others have a lot more at stake in that particular conflict than the U.S. does. And I think what he's saying is that he's not going to abandon NATO, but he's going to force people to stay up and pay their fair share.
Steve, thank you for your fair share today. Always great to hear from you. Appreciate it. Got to say goodbye to you. Thank you very much indeed.